Hey guys, Britt here. Welcome to End Times Bible Prophecy. Make sure to hit the subscribe, like, and share buttons. Well, I'd had something else planned to talk about in this video, which I'd planned for tomorrow. Some things have come up. I don't know if my schedule will allow for a video tomorrow or not. That's why we always say God willing. So we're going to talk about today something else that's popped up in the news yesterday. Now, some of you, I know in the comments, have said, why do you keep talking about this? But I believe it is critical to talk about this because of the implications for Bible prophecy, but also for people's lives. Because if the rapture doesn't occur today or in the next year, many of us are going to be enduring through this. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the coming global depression. I believe we're actually in the beginnings of right now, starting with this ongoing banking crisis, this banking crisis that's happening right now and is only going to get worse. And how can I be so sure of that? Well, I can be absolutely sure of that because of all the official government denials, right? So what do we say? When the government officially denies something, you can pretty much be sure it's going to happen. It's going to be guaranteed to happen. So we have this one right here. We have Janet Yellen, the U.S. Treasury Secretary. This was about 2 weeks ago, saying the U.S. banking system remains sound, right? So you can be assured of that. And then we had earlier this week, after the failure of First Republic Bank, which, the banking system was sound, Janet Yellen assured us, then, we had this other major failure. And President Biden comes out and says the banking system is safe and sound, despite what happened to, this super large bank that just collapsed. So don't worry about it. And of course, we had JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon being a little bit more honest and saying, well, this part of the crisis is over. Not the crisis is over, but, this part, which implies there are other parts to come, right? So at least he's being a little bit more honest. And then yesterday, the Federal Reserve met, hiked rates 1/4 point into this environment when the banks are being destroyed, falling apart. And he says the banking system is sound and resilient, right? So don't worry, there's nothing to see here. The banking system is sound and resilient. All of our anointed leaders assure us everything's just fine, right? So he says this banking system is sound and resilient. This is after we've seen inflation-adjusted bank failures of the second, third, and fourth largest bank failures in U.S. history, all in the last, 6-7 weeks. But the banking system is sound. The leaders have told us there's nothing to worry about here. There's nothing to see here. So just hours after Jerome Powell comes out and makes the statement, we see articles like this on CNBC from this morning. It says regional bank stocks continue to slide on Thursday, with Pacific West leading the way, down 40%. And as you can see, they have Pacific West down 40%. Here's Western Alliance down 12%. Zion Bancorp down 9%. This is an index of regional banks down 4%. We read on, it says the rout in regional banks picked up steam again on Thursday morning, with several stocks poised to open trading with sizable losses. Pacific West sank 40% in pre-market trading. The slide began on Wednesday evening following news the Los Angeles bank was exploring strategic options, including a potential sale. So keep in mind, this is just a couple hours after Jerome Powell assured everyone, the banking system is sound and resilient, everything's wonderful. So he had to know this was coming on. So when the government makes these official denials, they tell themselves it's okay to tell this lie because it's for a good purpose. We're trying to avoid panic and reassure people, so it's okay to lie about it when we know that it isn't true. Says the bank said in a statement that it will continue to evaluate all options to maximize shareholder value. I can tell you shareholder value will be zero sometime in the very near future, so I don't know what they plan to do. But it says, meanwhile, Tennessee-based First Horizon also fell 40% after the regional lender and Toronto Dominion Bank announced that they were terminating their merger agreement. Now, again, let me translate this. They weren't terminating the merger agreement. Toronto Dominion Bank terminated. They may have officially come out and said, oh, we've decided not to do this. But it was Toronto Dominion Bank going, maybe that wasn't such a good idea after all to acquire this bank. So they've actually paid $225 million to First Horizon in order to terminate this deal. That's how much they didn't want to acquire First Horizon. What does that tell you about the balance sheet of First Horizon? It says the bank said in a press release that the move was due to uncertainty around when Toronto Dominion would receive regulatory approval for the deal. And it wasn't related at all to First Horizon. So we've got more official denials. No, there was just uncertainty over the regulatory approval. Do you really believe that? If you believe that, put that in the comments. But I don't believe that for a minute, because if you have uncertainty over approval, well, what would you typically do? You'd say, well, let's wait a little bit and see if we get more certainty. We get some clarity, rather than let's just scrap the whole deal. Here, we'll pay you $225 million to end the contract. You don't pay $225 million because there's some regulatory uncertainty. There's always regulatory uncertainty when you have these bank mergers. What happened was they initiated this deal back in February, and at the time they didn't realize how bad of a deal it was. And now that they see all these bank failures and they're looking at the balance sheet of First Horizon, they're saying, we don't want to acquire that. So First Horizon might be on the list of potential bank failures in the near future. Who knows? But how long is this going to go on? How long is this going to last? We really don't know. There's so many different variables, but I would tell you that it's going to continue. I don't know when exactly it ends, but let's look at this article right here. It says the Fed's latest interest rate hike could set off a domino effect in regional bank failures. Now remember, one of the reasons that we're having this issue is because the Fed dramatically hiked interest rates from near zero up to 5% in the course of a year. We talked in the past about this is just a mountain that they're going to fly the plane into. Something's going to break. We're seeing that happen right now. It's happening. And so here we talked about how these Fed rate hikes, it takes 9 to 12 months for them to work their way through the economy and have a full effect. So we haven't even seen the full effect of those rate hikes yet, but now they're hiking again. They announced yesterday 1/4 of a point. So it's going to make the situation worse because it drives down the value of these bonds that the banks are sitting on. And then when people come and take out their deposits, in order to redeem those deposits, they have to sell those assets at a 20% loss. And that's what creates this problem. So this says the Fed's latest interest rate hike could set off a domino effect in regional bank failures. The Federal Reserve approved another 1/4 point interest rate increase on Wednesday, marking the central bank's 10th consecutive rate hike in its effort to curb persistent inflation, despite recent troubles in the banking system. And they may very well be, at least temporarily, very successful in curbing inflation by causing a depression on par with the Great Depression, which leads to lower economic activity. We'll see energy prices plummet, at least for a time. But that's what they're doing. They're crashing the system, guys. Says the move raises the benchmark federal funds rate to a range between 5% and 5.25%, the highest level since 2007, which I would note was right before the great financial crisis took place, at a time when bank customers are already feeling anxious after a string of recent bank failures. Analysts say that the Fed's decision to raise interest rates again has renewed concerns that some mid-size or regional banks that have suffered large withdrawals of deposits could be on the edge of a precipice. Each incremental interest rate hike beyond what they had anticipated is going to exacerbate the banking problems significantly, says Brian Bethune, a financial economist and economics professor at Boston College. Once that trust starts to erode, then you have a domino effect. And we're on the brink right now of a major domino effect in the regional banks. So what does that mean? It means as people become concerned over their deposits in some of these smaller banks, they'll pull them out, they'll put it somewhere else where they think that maybe it's safe, maybe it's a very large bank like JP Morgan, where they think the government will just bail them out and we don't have to worry about a failure there. And then, of course, you have trust among the financial institutions themselves and this willingness to extend credit, which could freeze the credit markets, which would be disastrous for the economy. So, again, this 1/4 point rate hike, this is still going to extend 9 to 12 months in the future. Even if this is the last one, we haven't seen the full effects of this. They don't take place overnight. They take place over time. So what is next? What should we expect next? Well, in the immediate future, I believe when the market closes tomorrow, on Friday, I said the same thing last week. I said when the market closes on Friday, we very well could see the FDIC take a bank into receivership, and we saw that happen with First Republic Bank. And they resolved that by basically all the bad stuff on their balance sheet was bailed out by taxpayers, and JP Morgan bought the rest for pennies on the dollar, because that's how this corrupt system we have works. I think we're going to see something similar happen tomorrow when the market closes around 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in the United States. Expect to see news coming out about one or more bank failures. The top of everybody's watch list is Pacific West. So how that will resolve remains to be seen. Is this another bailout opportunity? Will we see this ratchet up higher and higher? Or will we see this crisis just blow up? I don't know. I don't know whether that's going to happen this week or 6 months from now. But what I can tell you to be aware of is to be aware of your history, because if you know history, you can get a glimpse of what the future may be like. And so I want to point your attention to this right here. About the bank holiday of 1933, I would encourage you to go read up on this. Read about the Great Depression. Learn what happened there so that you can better protect yourself. This says, for an entire week in March 1933, all banking transactions were suspended in an effort to stem bank failures and ultimately restore confidence in the financial system. So we know this happened in the past. They had this bank holiday where banks were shut down for a week. I don't think it's a stretch to think that something like that could happen again. And so make sure, the Bible tells us the wise are prepared, the wise make preparations. Think about your vulnerabilities if your credit card didn't work, your debit card didn't work, ATMs didn't put out cash for a week. You could do no banking transactions for a week. How would that impact you? And prepare accordingly. So I can tell you what I'll be doing on Fridays moving forward. I'm going to make sure we have a full tank of gas in our cars. I'm going to make sure that we have some cash on hand in case we need it. And as always, we have a deep pantry. So if you have a day's worth of food on hand, then under any circumstance, I would advise that that's probably a bad idea. You want to have food on hand for a prolonged period of time, because you never know what might happen. You could have a natural disaster. You could have any number of things that could take place where you want to have that food on hand, because Remember with the pandemic lockdowns and when the pandemic first occurred, what did your grocery store look like? Now imagine that all of a sudden financial institutions are shuttered. Well, the new inventory may not come into the store or into the gas station because everything revolves around credit. And so those stores could get cleaned out rather quickly. So make sure that you have provisions on hand for at least a week, maybe longer. Who knows how long something like this could happen. But I would advise you, I think that something like this is likely to occur before year's end, where we see a bank holiday. Most likely, the way they like to do these things is after the market close on Friday. It's Friday, then it's Saturday, people aren't paying attention, and then you find out late Sunday night or early Sunday morning what's going to happen, that there's some massive crisis in the financial markets and that they're going to have to temporarily shut down these financial institutions. That includes the stock market, everything, guys. So be aware of this. Be prepared for this. Hopefully the rapture occurs tomorrow and all of this is irrelevant. But I just want to make sure that you're all prepared for this, for if and when it happens. So, what are your thoughts? Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think. But I think that all of this, where we're headed with this, because this is only going to get worse, guys. We've got, this is just from interest rates rising. We haven't seen significant job losses yet. What happens when that takes place and people can no longer make credit card payments? They can no longer make loan payments. They can't make mortgage payments. We've seen there's a $20 trillion commercial real estate market out there of office buildings that haven't been fully occupied since the pandemic, that need to be refinanced at higher rates, which means massive defaults are coming, and that's going to hit the banks even harder. So there's more obstacles, there's more headwinds in the future for the banking system. So the official denial should let you know the banking system is not sound. Remember, back last year, we looked at this FDIC meeting of the Systemic Resolution Council, where they were discussing this very thing that we see going on right now. And what did one of the participants say? He said, well, the public has a lot more faith and confidence in the banking system than those of us in this room do. And then they all laughed, ha, 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 right? Maybe not like that, but they laughed because they realized having faith and confidence in that banking system was misplaced. And they were saying, we don't put our faith and confidence in that banking system. But he made sure to follow that up with, and we want them to have that faith and confidence. And I'm not saying that your particular bank is going to go under tomorrow. I'm not trying to say that. But I'm just saying we have history on our side where the government tells us one thing and the exact opposite occurs. So prepare accordingly, because I think all of this is just going to get worse. I believe ultimately, big picture, this sets the stage for many of the end times events. It sets the stage for them to roll out central bank digital currency. So all of this, I believe, will eventually tie into fulfilled Bible prophecy in one way or another. But in the interim, on the short term, be on the lookout. If you're banking with one of these banks, do some research, know what could happen or not happen. And again, if there's a bank holiday like we saw in 1933 during the Great Depression in the United States and all over the world, there were banking holidays. How would you handle that? Are you prepared for that if that were to take place? Ask yourself those questions. So, guys, let me know what you think. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, leave your comments below. God willing, I'll see you at least on Monday, maybe on Friday. I don't know what the schedule will look like, but God willing, I will see you soon. Bye. If you want to learn more about the end times and Bible prophecy, make sure to sign up for my free monthly newsletter and get your copy of my free ebook, 7 Signs of the End Times. just follow the link in the description to get your free book. Also, make sure to check out all of my books. Just look up Britt on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Apple iBooks, Google Books, Kobo, or anywhere books are sold. Thanks for watching today, and until next time, keep your eyes fixed on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith.